All right, so this is day 6 of living life like tomorrow was promised. I honestly did not feel like recording today, but I mean, a part of this series is to record even the small things, like the things I don't want to do, right? Just because this is also a kind of like document journal part of the series. Obviously, living life like tomorrow isn't promised as a regular person, but also partially to kind of document my life. I think that I've always wanted to record in some way, shape, or form, not for the sake of like money or attention, but kind of to prove that I've been here, you know. The years down the line, I want people to look back on this video and just be like, oh, this is what some regular dude has been doing, you know. Nothing crazy, nothing insane, just living life. I guess this is a good start to my daily yap session for these videos. I don't really have much going on today. Sundays are always kind of chill. I stretch a little bit. I make some food for the week. I didn't record that because all it is turkey and rice. So nothing out of the blue. Not because I want to diet hard, just because it's the easiest things to make without spending too much time on. So I guess this is a good time to talk about what the series means to me as well. So again, one of the reasons is to document my life. But also another reason that I've always thought about is to kind of give advice. Obviously, no one is going to live the same situations that I have, the same life that I have. But I feel like people can find similarities, and maybe that can help someone out there. Who knows? So I guess there's like a few things that I'd like to go over for that. One of the biggest things I think I'd like to go over is, now that I'm about to hit 25 this month, I guess some life advice would be awesome. As in, like, I wish I would have known certain things when I was younger like everything I knew now, I wish I knew then. So what does that include, right? I'm not saying buy a house or invest in stocks or invest in Bitcoin or whatever. A few things I would tell myself younger age would be, one, is to not take everything so seriously, is to have fun. Growing up, being very aware of my family situations, I've always been very kind of hyper aware almost. Like, I think too much about things that I was doing when I was younger, instead of just being young, instead of just having fun. So that's one big message that I would tell my younger self, or to anyone out there that is going through kind of like a not ideal scenario. Not everyone has money when they're growing up, but I would tell them to have more fun. It all works out in the end. But that doesn't mean don't care about nothing. Now, I know that's contradictory to some extent, but what I mean is have fun, but also figure out one or two things you want to be really good at and just focus in on those things. You don't have to be good at everything. For example, if you're in school and maybe you're a big sports person, but your grades aren't that well, let's focus in, instead of like all your classes, focus on like, I don't know, like math. If you're really good at math, focus on math. Take that as far as you can and go from there. So I guess that's like part 2 of it. I guess my second piece of advice is, one is to have more fun. Second is to not think so much on everything. Think hard on one or two things. But I guess here's where I can split off into talking about different people into different parts of school. So again, I guess jack of all trades. I feel like I always did a little bit of everything in school. Was not the greatest at everything. I would be okay at a lot of things. So I did a multitude of different things in school. I did sports, I did musical, I did choir. I also did FBLA, which is Future Business Leaders of America. I did my school's student council, you name it, right? I did everything. Again, part of that was because I thought I needed to get anywhere, which was very wrong about that. But this is why I'm here telling whoever's listening. So part of that is talking about the different, I guess, categories people put themselves in school, right? I guess the easiest one for me to start off is with quote unquote jocks, right? I think to that extent, for those guys, unless you're let's just say you're to the point where you're going pro in sports, right? Focusing on sports, but focusing on your grades. I've seen so many people miss their opportunities just from not being able to do well in school. And even to that extent, say you get done with sports, say you end up pro. Let's say in this scenario you end up pro. After you end up pro, then what? What are you gonna do? What is your, I guess, purpose after sports? Say you couldn't play that sport anymore, right? What is your purpose then? So while you're in school, learn something new. Why not? I think knowledge is helpful in any aspect, even in whatever sports you're in. I guess my other aspect of that would be kind of the art side of things. I ended my college degree in arts. So someone who has done arts, been in musicals, etc., etc. My biggest advice to you is to be passionate, but also to kind of be realistic. Yes, you can make a lot of money from art, but at the same time, yes, you got to spend a few years, working that serving job or restaurant job, unless you have some way of blowing up. But pursue your passion, don't settle for less. In some way, shape, or form, with enough passion, you can do anything you want. Yeah, I think that includes, music, arts, etc., etc. That doesn't really just pertain to specifically art, but a lot of other things as well. Leaning into my last two categories, right? The third one I think of, I imagine, and again, these categories don't really mean anything. Just kind of just what my mind goes to is the people who are really smart. You don't really do too much in sports. You don't really do too much in arts. You're just super, super smart. And to you, I give you applause because I that was never me. To you guys, keep doing you, right? Be smart, do crazy things, do research. I think that's awesome. But at the same time, try to be passionate. Hang out with your friends. Do something else other than your schoolwork, because at the end of the day, schoolwork is awesome, but how you're really remembered is by the people you influence. I butchered that because of my stuttering, but at the end of the day, again, what you're known for is by the people you influence, not really of what you created, right? Again, take that with a grain of salt. There are people out there who are remembered by what they're created, but to a degree, right? My last group. I can call them this because I feel like I belong in that group. Even though I did a little bit of everything, I feel like I belong in this one group, right? I call this group the weirdos. Before you come at me, again, I believe that I was one of those, right? I don't mean I don't mean specific people. I mean like those people that they don't really fit in anywhere, right? I feel like I was one of those, right? I did sports. I would say I was on more of the popular end of things in school, but I still didn't fit in, right? I was always the oddball out. Keep doing you for those guys. As weird as you are, you have a place, and that place might not be in a category, but that's all right. I think my weirdness has kind of brought me opportunities that I never thought I would have had. Now, again, I can't speak on everyone. That's just my opinion and my perspective of what I've seen. But the next one is kind of like, is college, you know? And you're gonna have several routes to that. I can only speak on the college route because I went to college, but there's another route where there's several routes, right? You went to community college. Another one is you just went straight to the workforce. All are okay. I just went the college route, so that's the only one I can talk about. So, the college route. College is awesome, right? Yes, you're going to get in debt. If you don't get in debt, congrats. That's awesome too. But for the people that usually do get in debt, it's not the end of the world, okay? Now, if you go like a couple $100,000 in debt without any major like return in terms of like your degree, maybe, but that's like, you know, how the dice roll at this point. So in terms of college, you're going to have many different types of people, right? Many different types of groups. I guess my main kind of opinion or advice I have for people in college or going to college, all those categories I just mentioned from high school mean nothing. Absolutely zero. You're going to find your own people there. You're going to find people like you. For those weirdos, you might find some people like you. Sorry if you don't. That's just part of being a weirdo is. But yeah, I think college is a great time. Don't spend it all on just having fun. Make sure you use this time to talk to people who you think would help you in your career as well. Now, I don't mean is like use people for their position, right? When I say this, I mean genuinely make connections with people that you think are going to advance you in your career or help you in your career in some way, shape, or form, right? That doesn't mean get professor whatever's friend that works in this professional field to give you whatever. Talk to people in your school. Simply, sometimes the friends that you make, their parents have enough connections for you to kind of network yourself into your professional field. You know, you don't have to be Mr. Connected to everyone. You know, you just have to be Mr. Connected to someone, or Mrs. Connected to someone. It doesn't really matter. But to that extent, you know, make your friends in college. Make sure they're genuine friendships. Don't be fake. That's not cool anywhere. And then be prepared. You know, my one thing for people who are graduating is be prepared. Right? Not everyone is going to find a job in their career. And you might think the other way around. I was definitely one of those people where I was like, man, I'm doing all this. I'm going to get a job in my career. No problem. It's going to be easy. I was wrong. I applied to about 1,600 jobs in graphic design. I know. Everyone's going to say you got cooked by AI. Not really an excuse, but you know. So to that extent, make sure you're prepared to find a regular job. You know, it sucks at first, but again, it's all part of the process. For those of you who are on the other end of that, who believe they are going to get their masters and doctorates, go for it, but choose the proper school for it, right? There are certain schools in certain careers that if you choose the right school, you pretty much are guaranteed a job out of the bat just because of the reputation of the school. For everyone else who went to like a state school like me, unless you've got that network, that connection I told you about, get ready to work your butt off because you definitely have to. So, again, for those people getting out, there's a chance you might not use your degree. There's a chance that you're going to have to get a regular job like everyone else and just work your way through it. Now, this is where you have to plan carefully, right? You can end up in two situations. One, you have too much debt, and it's really kind of like crippling from school. Another one is you kind of played the safe route where you still have debt, but you don't have like a lot of debt. Like, it's still a lot, but it's not like unpayable forever, right? And then you have your other ones that have just already paid their debt. I mean, or have their debt paid off. Awesome to you guys. Props to you. You're gonna have a fun time starting life. So, for those people who are in some debt, it's not crippling. This is the route I can give you the most advice on, right? On the other two ends, I can't really give you that advice. On the end, what we're talking about is what you can do is you can still move out on your own. You can still find a house to buy. You can still do a lot of things, but don't expect those things to be the nicest things, right? What people fail to understand, I understand the housing market is a little rough. What people fail to understand also is that your parents, your grandparents, your grandparents never started with their ideal house. You know, they never started with their ideal forever home, you know, apartment, whatever. They always worked their way into it. So what does that look like, right? For example, right now, I have currently a 1-bed, 1-bath house. And you're probably like, Angel, what kind of house is that? Probably is tiny. And honestly, it's not the biggest place, but that's okay. But what you don't understand is a lot of the people before us, at least in my age, have had 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5, 6 houses before they found their home that they wanted. And you know, that might be the case for me as well. You know, I might be house number 3 before I'm like, this is the place I want, just for the sake of, you know, not paying $300,000 in loans off my first house. So, to the other extent, groceries and gas is very expensive, right? I'm not going to disagree that it's a struggle, you know, but it's possible to do it. Now, I know there's going to be the argument of you should be able to buy name brands. Yes, I agree. But name brands overcharge in the first place, right? Go buy your great value, whatever. Go buy your whatever thing from Wish, you know, your cheap option. Not everything, but like a lot of things you can buy cheap. And it's not going to affect your quality of life as much as you think. I see a lot of people complain about pricing when they're still buying name brand things, you know? And like, I get it. It sucks. It's not the easiest times right now. But like, you're not helping yourself out by buying these expensive things. And no matter how much you say you should be able to, if you still can't, that doesn't really help anyone. And that comes to my conclusion of like my final advice for this Yap session is that once you get to past high school, past college, you're in your own life now, you're doing your own thing now. Unless you've got your parents that can affordably help you, you're on your own. And you, no matter who you are, no matter what kind of situation you are, how do I say this? Thinking about the things that you can't control is going to affect you more than thinking about the things that you can control. What does that mean, right? I can control how many hours I work to an extent. That's a horrible example. I control what I eat. I control how I exercise. What is that going to help me in? That's going to help me feel better about myself, hopefully, right? Not the case for everyone. But what can I control? I can't control who my manager is. I can't control the CEO of my company. You know, I can't control the weather. But if you complain about how much it rains, instead of building a shelter to stay dry, you're always going to be wet. It's the best thing I can think of to say. So yeah, I guess that's the end of my yap session for today. Again, didn't really have much to do, only yapped. I don't know if any of this advice was helpful. It might be helpful to some people. Kind of went about it fast. There's definitely a more in-depth version of all that I could go into, but without trying to be political. Again, this is all just from the perspective of life, not even perspective of your stance on politics or religion or whatnot. This is just straight up how life has been and how you live currently, unless again you're well off and you got a better situation than most. If that's the case, that is a whole different video. But yeah, this is day 6 of living life like tomorrow isn't promised, as a regular dude. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Maybe I think I'm gonna have a good lift tomorrow, so I got a lift coming to record. And other than that, it would be the daily app session as always. So I hope everyone had a great 4th of July. And yeah, that's it.